You have arrived at Laughbox, the podcast for the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor. We are so excited you're here. Join us for episode 125 with Jim Bob Williams, Katie B,
Welcome to
and
Laughbox,
special
the
guest,
official podcast of the
Roland
Association
Thompson.
for Applied and Therapeutic Humor.
Yay!
I'm Jim Bob Williams,
And I'm Katie B.
and today's guest is motivational speaker, a source of wisdom to many, a grandfather extraordinaire. Of course, we're talking about Roland Thompson. Roland, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Roland.
Yeah,
Hello.
good afternoon. Hey,
Roland, we met through AATH at your Humor Academy, and you've been active in the Humor Zoomers and other meetings there. I learned a little more about you each week, or each month it seems. And let's just say you're astounding.
I think everybody is. We were made to. Everybody's trying to fit in, but we were made to stand out, and that's the focus that I am. Is just everyone's an individual. Where the whole world is a neighborhood, and we're all neighbors, and we're supposed to love our neighbor. And people know that, and they say it, but why don't they do it?
That's a question. That's
Yeah.
a big question.
Yeah.
All right, in 25 words or less, how did you discover therapeutic humor and what it could contribute to your mission?
One of my good friends who lives like 45 minutes away, Greg Kettner, is a comedian, and I know he was involved with it one time. Went to the conference, and I started looking at it, and humor's always been a part of my life growing up. And I said, wow, I had no idea they existed, and I wanted to help be able to enhance my ability to bring humor to people, to bring laughter and make people laugh. That was 24 and a half words.
And you are a Vietnam vet, is that right?
3 tours. In fact, in May, I'm meeting up with about 5 or 6 of my buddies. We've stayed together close to 50 years, talking about interpersonal, my focus, and I think my core message in life right now is we're clarifying a little bit, and I think we've gotten there with the team is because it's reaching grandchildren and everything. It's basically connection. It's about all the woes in the world, drugs, suicide, everything that's really going on, wars, is because of people, the lack of understanding what interpersonal relationships really are. And the ability that here we have 5 or 6 of us been together. We did 3 tours, and we were together for 3.5 years, and we owned nothing. And we didn't have to put on a facade. We knew who each other really was deep. And by that, and we're different, diverse culture, race, and we truly have a love for each other. And how did that come to be? And then we were all in a position where nobody was more important than the other, all the way down from somebody who's a cook to somebody who is a commander, that we were all needed, stepping back, looking at the big picture, that we all fit in and we needed there. And that's the premise when you're down being raw and real with people. I think humor is a natural form that comes out of really getting to know people who they are, which means that also if you really want to know a person is, try to bring humor and making them laugh and getting them into that point and bringing in connections between people. Yes, I was a veteran. Still am a
Thank
veteran.
you.
I'm sorry. I'm squirrel. Anyway, go ahead.
So why is grandfatherhood such an important issue, or grandparenting such an important issue for today?
I heard a Christian leader one day say 6 years ago, that was the things you go through life and you realize that you have your own compass inside you. I call it's your Leahona. And it functions based on you staying connected with the powers to be and giving you guidance of why you're here. And one of the first big promptings was what he said was the purpose of Christians is to prepare the world for the second coming. And I go, wow, that's pretty profound. Basically, the future generations, the kids. And I realized there's such a disconnect between kids. I have 2 good friends, family friends, and their teenagers died by suicide. And then when you realize, oh my gosh, we need to connect. And then when one of your adult children call you up, and because you say it never happened to you, and they call you up and tell you that their teenager, your grandchild's in the hospital after attempting to take their own life. And you go, what's going on here? These people are the future leaders of the world. And then my eighth cousin is Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And he said, we cannot always build a future for our youth, but we can always build our youth for the future. And I realized I have over 70 years of wisdom and experience. And I can't force it on these kids because they're not going to listen. I can't force it on them, but that wisdom and experience is needed for them in their life to be the future leaders. How do we bring that to them? So it was there's all these little promptings along the way. And then the fact that I have 50 grandchildren. When I started this, it was about 30.
Excuse me for a second. I want to
50,
I want to make sure the people know it's 50,
Yeah.
50, not
50
15.
grandchildren. These little kids are running around, and who are they? Why do they keep calling me grandpa? How come I have no money at the end of the year, Christmas time? There's all these little questions. But when it's realized it's not the material things, and it's not about who I am, and connections is not about you. And this, I think a lot of people don't realize, connection is about others. It's about them and listening. And really the simplest thing about with kids is just listening. And so during the last 5 years, I've had some pretty profound experiences, because the prompting that started me off about 5 or 6 years ago, in a way, said that one, experience is a better teacher than just words. And one of the biggest ones with one of them was my grandchild, he was contemplating who we inherited, it raised him, and he was one that I was getting frustrated because he was junior in high school, failing in school, and his dad is, I don't use labels, that's the other thing. We get this established as one of the things we need to do. What you can do as an individual in the audience or whatever is every time you see where somebody is identified by a label, is to get that out of your mind. That's not who you are. You just happen to be born in Nigeria. You just happen to choose this religion to become closer to God. So it's not about, you're not that religion. And same thing with grandpa. Just because you're called grandpa, are you making a difference? I realized that I was frustrated because I was trying to get him on the right path. And then it said to me, you want him to change, don't you? I go, yeah, it's not going to happen. You have to change. What? You have to change. Just learn who he is. And that's what I did. And it turned around, and man, it's amazing. That whole story, it just still blows me away. And he's married. He's in Army intelligence now. That's an oxymoron to us Navy guys. Anyway, you see the power in just listening to these little kids without judgment, without opinions, without advice. Because the man upstairs did not give us the power to change other people, only the power to change ourselves so we can become a light to guide other people. And humor, basically, and everyone, is undeniably, it's like one of the biggest essences of light when people bring in and making people laugh. And I don't want to be known. I think one of the biggest, I was talking to my son last night, he was with me when we were down in Riverside, down at the Tonight Show. And I got called on stage with Jay Leno. It was on his birthday. It's like his 50th birthday, so it was quite a while ago. And I remember, here was an opportunity for me to try to be funny, because I wanted to be known as a funny guy, a label. That's what I would be known as, and it was about me. And so I tried to joke. I tried to be funny, and I just fell flat on my face. And I have this picture of him putting his arm around me, and he says, why don't we just leave the jokes to the professionals? Now, for a person who, at the time I was an inspirational humorist, is the title I used. I was a National Speakers Association. I was doing a lot of motivational speaking. And I wanted to be known as a funny guy. But then I realized I don't want to be known as a funny guy. I just want to be a person that makes people laugh. Making it about them, not about me. How am I going to do that? And the thing about Humor Academy and the AATH is it's not about what we learn there. It's about the connections and the feeling of being around you and around Kate and Mary Jane and all these people that are there with that mindset of very comfortable, because you cannot be funny without really being loving and being comfortable with who you are. That's what wit, when people say they have wit, is because they truly are comfortable with who they are. They're not really worried about what other people think, but they worry about how other people feel. and getting to know who they are and how they feel and bringing in humor and everything. And if you watch stand up, I watch stand up, and it's amazing the night and day of some of those stand ups that are out there. And Katie was a clown, she knows. And you have that natural ability of just having love for people, and they feel that draw, and you make them happy and you make them laugh.
I'm wondering how the Humor Academy may have affected your perception of humor, the therapeutic part of it, and how you then move forward.
Humor has always been a part of my life, and I just never identified it as a separate thing. Right now, in the last 20, 30 years, music has been a part of my life, recording, and I'm an executive producer. I do all this. And because to me, music is the greatest conductor of the spirit. Music is another medium for people to get their message out there that they can't stand on a stage and say, but they do it through music, and through the music, the spirit that connects us with their message. So how important it is. And to be able to go to the AATH and the Humor Academy was able to identify, just like music is a separate category, and I had no idea that humor was also a separate category, and really studying it and how important it is, and realizing the different kinds there is, and reining it in a little bit, if that makes sense, and identifying a little bit and seeing the importance of it, and being to the position to where it's okay sometimes just to blurt out and make people laugh.
Did you know it was healing, or the power of humor in our chemistry and the pain killing part of it and any of that before?
No, that was one of the big drawing things to me to it was the fact that it was applied therapeutic humor, that the class or the quality of the people who are involved, their doctors, their psychologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, teachers, and they're all in that different, to me, very respectable professions, and to be able to come together and to learn from them. And I found that one of my best teachers was Stephen Covey, and one of the things he taught me was, if you really want to learn something, teach it. And that's how I got involved with it 30 some years ago. Involved with it was because of my experiences that I went through, my mess that I went through to my success, and realize that if I take and I teach people about that who are going through similar things, and do it well, because I went from 29, living the best job in the world. 29, I just moved to a new area, I had 4 children, my 5th child was born, and then I lose 1 month later, my oldest son drowns, and 6 months after that, my dad died by suicide, and my grandmother from cancer, my grandfather from a heart attack, my brother-in-law was murdered, my wife and I divorced. She moves back to the other side of the state to where I'm 31 years old, unemployed, jobless, familyless, all in that 2-year period of time. And I look back and I'm like, and I give thankfulness that I was able to go through that, because I wouldn't be where I am today and the understanding I have if I hadn't gone through it, if that makes sense. And it also gives me the empathy to really understand people, because basically, and I look back when I say I did all my bucket, I've gone through just about every single experience that people have ever gone through and made it through, that I'm there to hold their hand, make them laugh. And it's not, when people say it's cold to laugh about it, really is it? No, it's not. My dad and I, my dad came over and we became really close in the 6 months after. He was really attached to my grandson. He got to meet him for the first month of his life. I was in Vietnam. I didn't get to meet him until he was a month old. And my dad, and I see pictures, and my dad was really close. I had no idea how it affected him until later. And him coming over 4 hours, sitting there in front of him, and I were there picking out the coffin and making a funeral arrangements. And we were joking with the person, the director, the person who was arranging this, laughing. And I realized, just bring that up now, and I look back and I take myself back to that place 42 years ago, and I can sit there and realize how therapeutic it was for us to joke and laugh about. There's nothing we can do, but now when I know what I know, Not that I believe, I know about the big picture that, hey, the day we are born, we are already starting that process of dying. And nobody's going to escape that death. The focus has got to be on living while you're here and what you can do. And the interaction is not to cower in the corner, is to be active. And me is to inspire people to go out and take action and don't be afraid of what people think of how much is not discovered out there yet, just because the person who was brought to this earth to discover it is afraid of what other people will say or laugh at them. I get emotional even just thinking about it. The biggest emotion that I have what people go through that really I struggle with, it's the emotion of loneliness.
Yes.
Yeah.
In my Chief Wellbeing Officer certification program, we did a survey. I had a cohort member in Egypt, Mushida, and she and I did a survey in Egypt, in the US, and it went through Humor Academy, so it went to Japan, went to a few more places. and so the biggest, most common factor in both of those surveys was loneliness.
Yeah.
Was how people are struggling right now with loneliness.
I get emotional just you saying that because I get in there and I think about how sad it is. 40% of the people, I'm considered elderly. You guys will get there someday. But in 40% of the people out there are lonely. And it's not just that. There are married couples where one of the spouses is dealing with loneliness. It's hard to believe. It's not just because somebody's around. How can you be lonely? You got all these people around you. And you know what that common factor is? You know what it is? And here's a lonely person. He's got all these people. You know what it is? It's connection. It's connection. Somebody coming in and connecting with them, and they see that lonely person, seeing people. And for me, realizing I have 50 grandchildren, and you realize that children are watching you, they're observing you, but they have not given any tools at all in their life yet to analyze what they observe. They only mimic. And when you realize that they strictly mimic, that's why I started drinking, that's why I started smoking, even though my parents told me not to, but they did. And when your dad lights up after a nice meal, after telling you not to smoke, and takes a big drag on a cigarette and has that nice feeling of good, say, why do you want to cheat me out of that feeling, Dad? In my mind. So I started smoking. I quit because I didn't want my son to smoke, and I knew 50 years ago today. And that when you start looking at that, I take my kids are grandkids, I look for every opportunity to spend one-on-one with them because I see the power of that, of learning about them. And I shared this today with a group today. I was talking and I said, I take my 11-year-old granddaughter with me, and people think this is corny, so they don't do it. And it probably is, but, and I may have shared this with you guys before, we pull up to a McDonald's window and buy a McDonald's, hands the bag through the window. I give it to my granddaughter sitting in the front because she can legally sit there now. And I look at the girl who handed me the bag, and I look her in the eye. I say, thank you so much for coming to work today. You have made our life so much easier, and we really appreciate you. Now, here's exactly what happened at that. My granddaughter kind of shocked. This girl actually had tears coming down her eyes. And she looks at me and she said, thank you so much. I didn't think anyone ever saw me.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a joyful moment, my man. That's what they look like. That's what happens.
I know. And we got to be demonstrating that every single human being you come across is doing the best they can.
That's right. Don't go away. We're just stopping for a station break. Stay with us. Have a giggle, and we'll be right back. Would you like to know more about the power of humor as a therapeutic tool?
Sure, I would.
If you join the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor, you can find out.
Oh.
They have a humor academy where you can study for 3 years and become a certified humor professional.
Jim Bob, you're a CHP. That's what that stands for then, huh?
That's right. I'm a CHP, Certified Humor Professional. This is a course of study for 3 years. You learn the basics of why humor works, how humor works. You learn to apply it to a real-life project where you're helping other people with humor. And finally, you learn how to apply humor in a leadership role. It was my experience in Humor Academy was amazing. Made lifelong friends, taught me the why and the how and how to be more effective at humor. Hasn't made my jokes any better, but hey, can't win them all.
Thanks, Jim Bob. Actually, I'm in year 2 as well of the Humor Academy, and it's amazing. Next year I get into my last year, and then I'm a certified humor professional. But do we leave after becoming a CHP? No. So many of the CHPs and the people that have gone through all of the training in AATH have stayed. So you can join the fun too. Check out aath.org for more information, Jim Bob.
Now, would you like to be on the Laugh Box podcast? Send an email to info@ath.org and we'll see if we can get you on the schedule.
Wow. Okay, let's now back to the program.
And now back to our Laugh Box podcast.
In the last couple of presentations I was given, I asked people, and I'll ask you guys too, just see what you say. Do you believe that there are evil people in the world?
I'll be the guinea pig here, and I will say there are people who do evil in the world.
So that's my point.
No,
They're good people, and they do what they do because they feel it's the right thing for them at that moment of what they're doing. And would you do anything different if you were based on everything that they're going through? But they're good people. And people who are, and somebody said, no, there's evil. I said, I'll bring you back because I do a lot of study. I study Adlerian psychology. So I, Alfred Adler, and I study that about relationships are not vertical. All relationships are horizontal. But yet we start off with kids as a parent, do that. Why? Because I told you to, I'm your parent. Oh, so you're superior to them. Yes. Which makes them what? Inferior. And I go, do you want to teach your kids right off the bat to have an inferiority complex? Whereas we're horizontal, and my sons, and I get on little masterminds with my sons all the time, and when in Nashville, and we talk about them doing that with their kids and parenting. And when you realize that in the scriptures, if you guys ever in the Bible, the purpose in the Bible, and you can believe the Bible, it exists, so it is what it is, and there's stories that are written. Who is the most evil person in the Bible in the New Testament is a self-proclaimed person who said, I am the worst sinner. Do you have any idea if you ever followed who that is? Saul. On his way to Damascus, he had this big, huge experience. Buddies were hanging around. Oh my gosh, he sees a big light, and hey, Saul, why you sit there and tear me down? But you know what? And he turned around and came Paul. They call him like the 13th apostle. And he went out and he just taught good and love and everything after that. And I think that's put there for us to realize when we see people that we need to just, like one of my heroes is Martin Luther King. Dark does not drive out darkness. Only light drives out dark. And you look at those, and I talk about legacy is a big one because people when I used to do a lot of speaking in colleges, I tell them that they interviewed 50 people who were 95 years old and older. And they asked them, if you were to go back and live life over again, what would you do differently? And I would draw on a board. I would go, here's 0, here's 100. You guys are 20. I'm way over here, just right on life expectancy is 80, and I'm coming up on that one really quick. These people are almost paid, they're almost 100. What do you think the top 3 things, what do you think the top three things they said if they were to go back and do life over again? What would they be?
Spend more time with family.
Number 2. What do you think?
Work less.
What do you think, Jim Bob?
eat more chocolate.
That was actually the very top one, but I've learned to cut that one out. Yeah.
Well,
No, you know what it was?
let
It
me
was, one was leave a legacy. The
Oh,
other
yeah.
one was take more risk. They wish they'd taken more risk in
Oh.
life.
Yeah.
I'm right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
another thing.
and the other one is spending more time smelling the roses and enjoying that life. But the other was legacy, and a lot of people don't understand what legacy is. And when you think about connection, legacy is connecting that you have. But legacy is because Katie B walked on this planet. A lot of people's lives are so much better because she was here. And you can't go out, so I'm going to go out and leave a legacy. You cannot go out and actively try to leave a legacy by trying to leave a legacy. So I use 5 people, I think, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Christ, 4 people. And I used them when they were on earth and they were here, they never did anything for themselves. They always did things for everybody else, and they weren't trying to leave a legacy to leave a legacy. They were just doing the right thing, and it brought them joy, and happiness comes from knowing that you are making a difference in this world, that you're contributing.
And I want to say one of the things very quickly with Joy First is that I acknowledge the person, give gratitude, share something before I know what side of politics they might be on, or before we have any kind of conversation, because it's not about any of that. It's about who happens to be standing in front of whoever we are, doing a nice thing, a joyful moment for others.
The boundary line between good and evil, the border between good and evil, is not politics. It's not other states or other countries. It runs down the middle of our heart.
I agree with that. But it's an external influence that's affecting how people are able to engage right now. And so that's part of why I'm feeling like it's important to say none of that comes into the picture, because it's not about any of that. It's about the heart. If our hearts actually, if our magnetic field, electromagnetic field around us is actually 3 feet in front of us, then whoever I'm coming in contact with, we're having this other electromagnetic moment while we're having that conversation, while they're getting affected by the joyful moment. And then how open they are to that experience is how long a lot of these things last, whether they dive in to tell me something important about themselves or cry or whatever. I think it's the need for having a connection like that. Actually, that wasn't as short as I wanted it to be, but
23 words, yeah.
Tell us about heartofthefathers.com.
6 years ago, one of the things that prompted me was when I talked about preparing the world for the second coming. And then when I do a lot of reading different, like I said, my studies is in Adlerian psychology, but also I'm heavy into Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, into Stoicism and into Christianity. And all 3 of those tie into each other. Some people, they separate them, but when you study these other 2, you actually are doing what attributes of what Christ does. You're loving and you're accepting people and things. And so the last 2 verses in the Old Testament was, before the great and dreadful day, the Lord will send the prophet Elijah to bring the heart of the fathers. It's one of those things that hit me. I go, oh my gosh, that's my grandchildren. To the children, and the heart of the children, which is their purpose and the reason why they're here. And that's when I created Heart of the Fathers, the domain heart. When I realized we need to, and the mission of it was, we are members of the sunset generation. We who are passionately invested in making the world better by empowering the rising generation to live the reason they are here. And the vision is, the foundation provides the tools and the education needed to effectively connect the sunset generation with the rising generation, creating a world where all are inspired to work together as they live their true life's purpose. And that's the key. All these children finding out who they are and what they want to be when they grow up, and teaching them to follow that. Because to me, I asked somebody, do you have children, Jim Bob?
Yes.
How would you feel if you knew that your children grew up solely not to disappoint you?
I'd be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, but how many times when they were growing up that you used those words? You really disappointed me. I'm disappointed in you with what you did and everything like that, because that's all about, that's the thing, is we got to make it about them. And this is like very new to a lot of people, because we've gotten so out there, and it's like, how do we awaken and getting people to step back and reevaluate where we're at and put that behind them and making it about others? That's our dilemma right now that we've been challenging with, is how do we awaken them? How do we awaken grandparents? When I've told a group the other day, I said, you know what? I'm going to tell some of you grandparents, stay away from your grandchildren. Don't contact them. It's shocking. Why? Because a lot of them are in a dark place your presence and the things that you say to them is making their life darker by your judgment, your criticisms, your advice and stuff. The key is learning who they are and just going in and understanding who they are. And once they know who you are, once you know who they are, then they'll know who you are. And the key is that, remember that thing about wisdom and experience? They don't force that on them. Get to know them so well that you don't give them fish, the Chinese proverb, or teach them to fish with them in their pond. And when you do that, after a while, you know who they are. As they get going, that wisdom and experience is drawn out of you by them at the right moments. And now before that could be theory, but it's amazing because the last 5 or 6 years and the actual experiences that I had where I got put in by there to be experienced, that I was taught that through those experiences. I was taught the hard way. And maybe I believed it, but now I don't believe it anymore. I know it.
I want to tell you, I just finished yesterday reading Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
I love that book. Yes.
Yeah, because he talks about education. He talks about how to change education, and he talks about just what you're talking about with experience versus programming, basically. So I was resonating with what you were saying based on what I was reading yesterday.
Why do I go to the conference? It's not to just sit there and learn. It's the connection with the people and being around them after the hours and sitting around and really getting to know. And Katie and I enjoyed what you do and your presence and your personality. And Jim Bob's is another one of being around. And I just want to hug you both because I love you both so much, just so you know.
Hey, Jim Bob, do you want to ask your signature question? Because that's just a beautiful segue from love. Love you too, Roland.
Okay, so I could convey some wisdom on us. Actually, to anyone within the sound of our voices right now. How can you make a difference on Thursday? In other words, in the routine, vicissitudes, and hassles of life, what can you do on Thursday to make that life better?
So are you talking Thursday just in general, or is there something
general,
actually happening on Thursday? It's not the end of the world or anything that I'm not aware of or anything. Okay,
not as far as I know, but
and there's not a Super Bowl or game going on or anything. No. Getting up in the morning, what can I do? Right off the bat, I think the first thing, if you don't know the tiniest action, this is one of the things I've been reflecting on to where I'm at today, and I was sharing it with one of my sons. The tiniest interaction with people, just the kindest thing, just seeing somebody once, is go out and just acknowledge maybe 2 or 3 people that you've never met. And it's usually the challenge I give my audience who sit there and I think, when you leave here and you're walking across campus as a college, the first person, look them in the eye and smile at them and say good morning. How hard is that? And I said, how many people had that happen to them? And a lot of them not. But then it's like, when I do, and then look at their response. So the first thing you do is just go out in the public, whether it's a homeless person sitting there or whatever, and sit there and just say, hey, you know what? Tell me a little bit about your story. Everybody has a story. You're sitting here on the side asking for money. I'll be glad to help you, but I'm really curious about you as an individual, your story in life. And how hard is that? And a lot of people just avert their eyes and walk away. And one of the other ones is, the other one is, don't worry about what people say. It's like when I'm interacting with my grandchildren, and I've done this with experiences, I would love them, but you know what? I'm afraid people will laugh at me or make fun of me. I said, you know what? That's a big concern. Help me here. I'm going to piss on paper here. Help me write down the names of the people that you're worried about what they're going to think if you did this. And you know what? They can't come up with anybody's name because they don't exist. The people that really matter. Yeah, the people that really matter. And the other one is if you're out getting on stage and you're going to talk to people and you're worried about are these people that would be coming to your funeral if you died? You know what I mean? So it's, hey, then what's your intent? The other one is when you always make all your action about others. The moment you argue with somebody or get angry with somebody, you're making it about you. If they get angry at you, they're making it about them. It is not about you. Find out what it is and just learn to question people and not accept your judgment or of what they're saying to you. Dig deep to find their intention of what they're saying. And it's fun, it's challenging because I'm still learning. When somebody asks me advice and somebody says, yeah, what do you say to somebody who sits there and accuses and sits there and calls me a liar and does all this? And then it would be like, do you argue right back? I'm not a liar. No, why not just ask them? That's really interesting. Can you give me specifically what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So that brought up something I heard in the last number of weeks was don't react, respond.
Right.
Roland, how do people find you on the internet, on that
Well,
interweb?
right now we're still in that development of that part and creating things. And right now we have our website, Heart of the Fathers with an F and N.com, which we parked a lot of stuff from where we're at. If we get going, and if this is the year, I think we pull the trigger on a lot of this stuff. But I think that with the foundation, we'll probably have links into the other things, because the other things that we're working with, we'll have grandconnect.com, we'll have grandtracker.com, and we can explain it's those kind of things that we'll be coming out with. But Grand Connect will be the major one, the business side of things. And on the Heart of the Fathers Foundation, and I've shared this with you guys too, and this is why connecting with you guys, because it does what you do, is the focus of this nonprofit. It's a 501c3. If people want to contribute, that's great. But when it gets going, the funding that we're going to be getting from that or into that is going to be putting on workshops around the world, around the country, free workshops, bringing in good speakers where the foundation will pay for the speaker. Maybe bring a grandchild, we'll have an improv day with your grandpa and grandson. And we have professional improvers that we pay to come in and they conduct this. And it's free to them. And because you learn more about a person in an hour of play than you do in a year of conversation.
That's a Mary Kay quote.
Is it really? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out who stole that from me, but yeah, you're right.
So do you want people to email you, Roland? What would
Well,
your
they
email
can. They
address
can go
be?
to it's Heart of the Fathers at Gmail, but I have a Connection Grandpa on Facebook. So if you go on
Okay, and
Facebook, and Heart of the Fathers also has a Facebook page. But right now it's Facebook. So Connection Grandpa or Heart of the Fathers.
so people can send you a direct message on Facebook Messenger through those two
Yeah. You can
pages.
look me up, Roland Thompson, on there. And
10 words for any grandparent in the world to remember. That's why it's 10 words, so they can use it like a mantra. 10 words or less for all the grandparents.
Make it intentional. Learn who they really are.
Nice.
Woohoo.
Perfect. All right.
Excellent.
This has been amazing, Roland. Great.
So,
Excellent. All right. This has been Laughbox with our special guest, Roland Thompson. On behalf of the AATH, I'm Jim Bob Williams.
And I'm Katie B.
Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay. Love you both.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for episode 125 with Jim Bob Williams, Katie B, and Roland Thompson. Thank you very much.
Laughbox is a production of the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Visit us online at www.aath.org. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Music by Gary Rubio. For more information, www.garyrubiomusic.com.